Here's Brody Brazil.
This was the biggest story of the season for me, why they struggled. Because defense came and went. There were sequences, high error totals, and miscues defensively. I think their starting rotation was largely respectable. And I'll get to who I think was the most consistent performer there in just a second. And their bullpen came and went too with struggles and success. I think with the rotation, just going back to that for a second, your starters can pitch as well as they can, but they're obviously better with run support. And to that point, they didn't get a lot of run support here. 216 is how they finished with a team average. That was the lowest in all of baseball, and it was the worst team batting average in A's franchise history. Not just Oakland franchise history, A's franchise history going all the way back to 1908. 1908. And even in that season, I think they've added 221. I should have included it here, but it was in the 220s. So at least like 5 percentage points higher. I mean, what was baseball even like in 1908? Completely different. More than 100 years ago. This was what held the A's from competing and winning a lot more games this year. There were so many nights where the A's would lose 4-1, 4-2, and Oakland would have 2 or 3 hits total. They only gave themselves a chance to win. They only gave themselves a chance to win this year when they put up some runs. And look, that's obvious for all teams. But there were so many nights where the A's offense scored in maybe 1 inning or only had 2 or 3 hits. I can't tell you how many times this year they flirted with getting no hit through 5, through 6, through 7, or even into the 8th inning like Shohei Ohtani did in his second to last start of the season. And by the way, the A's did avoid that no-hitter. They were 4 outs away from it. Oakland has the longest active avoidance streak of no-hitters in Major League Baseball. They're the last ones remaining that have not been no-hit the longest. You know what I'm trying to say. It was 1991, 31 years ago, was the last time the A's got no-hit. It was a combined effort by the Baltimore Orioles at the Coliseum. So they have gone so long, longest active streak of avoiding no-hitters in baseball. But it almost happened on a few occasions this year. You know that saying, which I'll clean up here, mess around and find out? They messed around with that this year. And luckily they didn't find out, because that would not have been fun to get no hit. But it almost happened. And they just, again, struggled with run support, struggled with staying competitive in games. They lost their ability to hit home runs, clearly. Like, that's how they used to keep themselves in games. Get a couple runners on, Matt Olson goes yard, all right, you're up 3-1. Didn't hit a lot of homers this year, couldn't produce offense in other ways, couldn't get on base, couldn't have a good average. For me, the number one Achilles heel of the Oakland A's in 2022 was the inability to produce runs. And Mark Kotsay tried different lineup orders, different situations. They just could not produce on a regular basis. And obviously the team average is compiled of player averages, but you look a lot of days down the lineup and there were some rough batting averages. The Mendoza line was prevalent for the Oakland A's. So it's not even to point the finger at one person. It's not the middle of the order that struggled. It wasn't the top of the order. It wasn't the 7, 8, 9 hitters. It was the entire group that just had a real problem staying consistent offensively. So this right here, you want to know how they lost 100 games? Was it a little bit of team defense? Yeah, they went through some rough patches of making, errors in like 4 of 7 games and 5 of 8 games. That happened. Was it the bullpen who blew some late leads, some close margins? Yeah, that did happen too. Was it the starters a couple times who, had the throwaway games? Yeah, that did happen. Not regularly, but this was the most consistent struggle point for the Oakland A's, their offense.